No ironing today.
No, we didn't. We came prepared today. All right, so it is day 2, and I think it's the final day that we'll be at the Expo.
For you, yeah.
And we appreciate everyone that came out yesterday. Today's gonna be the crazy day, right?
Yeah.
And I'll make sure you guys come by and see me. And this is actually gonna be launched after this.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming and seeing me.
That's right. In advance.
I got up this morning. I did 30 minutes of cardio. Of course, I took my products. I forgot to give this away yesterday.
I know.
So we're gonna do a fans first at some point this weekend. This is gonna give it away to Fat Burner. And guys, Arnold Classic. This is what we do.
Yep. Awesome.
I got some in the bag. So okay, let's get out of here.
Yo. Jay. I bet you.
But I could have just gave you
yeah, come on. You're good. Come on.
Thank you so much.
I didn't see your tag.
Thank you so much. Go ahead. 820, 800.
a lot of work.
Thank you.
Glad to hear you doing well. Just giving me all the updates and everything. So I know it's been a minute. I had so much. Wow. This is dope. You see this?
That's what you need for your contest, champ.
This is awesome. I need a picture. Can you take a picture?
Yeah, of course.
So listen, we're at this year's Arnold, and this guy, what's her name? Joey just brought me these magazines. What year are these magazines
This
from?
one's 57,
74.
74, you got 69. Oh my God.
This is
80.
awesome. Thank you guys so much. I mean, not only that, but he brought me a lot of stacks too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's awesome. Every day.
Thank you so much, guys.
I'm going to use this for my Insta story. Right now.
Okay, well, yeah, hit me up. Hit me up. I'll be
I got a picture with the box here.
There you go, Jeff. See ya.
How many chips did you get this weekend?
I don't think we got enough.
You gotta be careful when you ask for shit on camera. Did you know
You know
that?
what, though? It just shows how much people are paying attention. I appreciate it so much. I even get some that are signed to me.
And the dogs.
And the dogs
Angie.
went to Angie.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it so much. You guys are awesome, man. We had a huge successful. I won't be at the expo tomorrow, so when is this going up?
Probably tomorrow. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna merge today and tomorrow, which is your seminar with Arnold together.
So I guess we'll wrap up the weekend then.
Yeah,
Yeah,
tomorrow.
but it's
Yeah.
been awesome so far. You know, a lot of people came out to see me and waited in long lines, and
Yeah, today was busy.
we made sure though. What I do at these expos now is we make sure when we do cut the line, we make sure that people weren't waiting for any amount of time. They were all waiting. If you're waiting an hour, you're gonna get to see me. Like, we make sure. Obviously people show up and they stand there 2 minutes. Sometimes we have to cut the line or whatever. But I make sure that everyone gets a picture with me that's waited for any amount of time. So
I think I like your system now better than you did before, because before you seem to be spending a little bit less time with everybody and trying to get more people. But now you really spend your time. As long as they're willing to talk, you'll talk to them. And then, like you said at the end, when we're out of time, we usually will cut the line, and then then of course you can't conversate for them anymore. You can't talk to them. But
listen, I'd love to spend 10 minutes with everyone, but it makes it impossible, especially when I'm doing 1 hour appearances at certain booths.
Yeah, your line never ends.
So, that's kind of how it's become at these expos, because I have so many different places that I'm attending.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard for me to have time with everybody, But I hear a lot of good stories, and a lot of familiar faces, a lot of new faces, a lot of people that are following the channel, which is great. A lot of people with weight challenges that are getting enthused now with a lot of stuff we're putting out. My J-mail has been a huge hit. But Arnold Weekend never ceases to amaze me with how many people come out and share their stories and just really support this event. So
a lot of kids also who come with their parents, who came with their little kids, with pictures of you with them when they're little. Like,
yeah, but you know what's funny though is there are a lot of kids that come because their parents were fans.
Yeah.
I asked, how old are your dad? A couple years older than me, you know what I mean? So they've been coming here for 20 years.
And they were little before. Yeah.
Those kids weren't even born, and these kids are like, oh yeah, I'm whatever, and I'm like, dude, you weren't even born when I was winning Mr. Olympia, It's crazy.
That's awesome.
But it's a blessing, and I appreciate everyone coming out so much, man. And, we'll continue to get through the weekend now,
All right.
See who wins this thing.
That's right.
So if you just stay till noon for me, that would be great.
What's happening?
Okay, it's down here. I don't know.
Hanging out. Hey man,
Look who's here.
congratulations. Champ. What's up? How do you feel? Finally, right? Yeah. Happy, right? Expected though, right?
Yeah, of course, man. I didn't have my mind set on anything else. Just coming in to do the
Whole
job.
family show up or what?
Yeah,
All the kids, yeah.
all my boys. As you can see, won't stop moving. Take a picture up before it gets busy.
Where you from?
lived in Hamilton.
Okay.
12 months ago.
How do we get back here?
I don't know.
Warm welcome for 7-time Olympia champion, the gift, Phil Heath. What's up, Phil? Good. Back on stage. Oh, huh? Oh. They got chairs for us, but I like to stand. I know. It's just, got some energy flowing here, Phil.
Yeah, it's a little different. Normally I'm like half dead, getting ready for the Olympia, and now I get to chat it up with Bob, so that's really nice. How are you guys doing?
This is your last stage that's here. So,
Where's everybody?
Very unfamiliar ground, obviously, as everybody knows, only 2 people that got that right. Actually, we got both of those guys here today. But you were going to be that third guy. Elusiv's third man, grassy knoll, the whole thing, Phil. But it didn't happen. And you're used to my voice coming out there and doing that big dramatic pause that you hate before the big announcement.
I think throughout the years of being up here on the Mr. stage, winning shows, it's an incredible feeling. Your life flashes before your eyes every...
Bob, let's bring him up.
What's up, Jan?
Phil,
How we doing? We're doing good. You know this guy? You ever met Bill? Jay, you're a regular here every year. The fans love when you come out here. You're still in as much demand now as you ever were when you were the reigning and current Mr. Olympia. So how is it traveling the globe now, still seeing these lines of fans coming up to see it?
It's my 24th year this year, and I was champion here a few times, and I was blessed to be able to do that. So I want to thank everyone for coming out. It's a true honor to be here and be part of this actually on Sunday with all this talent that's up here, and we appreciate everyone coming out every year. Because I know a lot of people travel from long distance and they wait in many long lines, and it's a huge opportunity. The Expos have grown tremendously. I remember when bodybuilding shows were just bodybuilding shows without Expos, and now you can interact with all of us, and it's just really cool that people take the time to do that. And I don't think I wait 10 minutes in a line for anyone, so it's pretty awesome when people wait for hours on end to see us and be able to tell us their stories and tell us why they're here. I hear that every time I do events, and we're just blessed to be part of that.
Jay, we've done many interviews over the years. You had kind of a different rise to the top. Most people kind of burst on the scene like Phil Heath, who just boom, he was in the winner's circle and stayed there for a lot of years. You actually built your fan base by losing the Olympia every year, and he knows what I mean by that. This is hardcore, man. And Jay knows what I mean by that, because we talked about this many times. But I mean, listen, did the great Ronnie Coleman in front of you, man.
That was kind of the piece.
Yeah, that was a missing. I left that out to the end. That was a big finish. Ronnie Coleman was there, and everybody knows Ronnie, man. In his day, he just couldn't beat this guy. Nobody could beat this guy. But you build your fan base every single year by being the runner-up, and your fan base just built until you eventually beat the great Ronnie Coleman, and you got that title.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a challenge when we get up there and compete, and I always truly went to every contest like I was going to win, and unfortunately there was a big roadblock there, and I was fortunate to be number 2 in the world for, unfortunately 4 times the same guy. So for me, it was just, it was always an experience, and I just felt honored to be able to be on that stage from day one. I was second to last in my first Mr. Olympia, 15 out of 16. slowly moved way up, and it just took me a little longer to get to that first place title. And of course, I held it for 2 years, and I lost it, came back and won it. And you know, I just left my piece of history now, and still continue to do that. And I respect all the athletes up there, and there's always opportunity for all of us. It's like, I think it's any day anyone can win any show. Just like last night we saw on this stage, and you know, Brandon was victorious, but I mean, even the predictions, there was 4 or 5 guys that maybe could have won that title. And you know, Phil's won 7. I mean, he's kind of written himself in history, and you know, I expected that from him, which is great. But you know, with Ronnie, you know, we both Phil and I talked about those days of, you know, we respected him so much, and it was always an obstacle, but it was great to overcome that and eventually be, you know, winning 4 times.
Jay, a lot of the ex-champs, former champs, however you want to put it, they kind of reinvent themselves. They get out there, you know, work in different ways within the community. You're still really out there as Mr. Olympia. I mean, people still come up and they, you know, you're still Jay. You're still, you know, look like you can step on stage with just a little bit of training, and you keep yourself in great condition. Even though you do have many business ventures outside of bodybuilding and within it, you're still kind of looked at as the Olympia champion, and I think that's pretty cool that you've been retired now 5 years. Man, it's been 5 years, and I think it's pretty cool that you're out there still. You're still the champ.
You know what, I love the business. I love fitness. You know, my passion was obviously lifting weights and being a bodybuilder since day one. I started 18, and I never imagined coming from a small town that I would ever end up where I am at now in Las Vegas and being able to travel the world. And I became an ambassador, and I continue to just do what I love to do, and I want to motivate people. And I think a lot of social media now is very positive, so we can communicate a lot easier with the fans. And we're not just limited to the bodybuilding books that display our talents, right? So it's a truly an honor. I mean, like I said, it's, you know, it's our job, it's our duty. It's what we did. We did it at the highest level. People look at us as role models, which is unexpected when we first started training. I just wanted to be a guy that had my first muscle fitness cover, and that was just like, that was it for me. And then eventually become the best and be able to now motivate everyone. You know, people sit in this room, all ages. It's awesome.
Jay, you just kind of caught the social media as it was coming up, and now you're a master of it. You're all over the social media. Phil kind of came right into it, and he also was very active on it. I just started on MySpace last week, so I'm still catching up a little bit, but I'll get there. But Jay, I'm so glad you're able to come out, and we're going to hit some more Mr. Olympia champs. I want a big hand for the champs. Big cover. Thank you. Guys, Arnold, guys. Welcome to your own show.
Man, I always wanted to sit next to the Haney. Especially when the mic moves. Oh, now it's working. Very nice.
We got everything covered here, don't you worry.
Absolutely. So it's called the Arnold Classic, right? And not the Arnold failure.
No, you've been doing this many years, and this year, with no exception to the rule, bigger and better. You can see we're at capacity here. These people absolutely just love the Arnold weekend. It has expanded the globe now. You've expanded to, this is the biggest sporting event in the world.
It's the biggest sports and fitness event in the world, without any doubt. And also the biggest expo. We have sold 1,300 booths, and it's absolutely extraordinary. I mean, all those companies that manufacture things that has to do with fitness, if it is equipment, if it is tanning stuff, clothing stuff, and all food supplements. I mean, it's really amazing that everyone comes together here, and you know, and I think it's just the greatest way of inspiring people. It's all part of our fitness crusade, because it's not just about us and about guys winning, you know, the Arnold Classic and who's the most muscular man, but it's also about each of those 80 sports. We have 80 sports represented here, and that just came from ballroom dancing. Not that I was ballroom dancing, don't misunderstand. I could do the waltz.
You did some ballroom dancing.
That's right, yeah, and the tangos, that's right, exactly. I can't, but I mean, this was really professional ballroom dancing where I just came from, and it's really amazing, you know. So we have all these different sports, 80 different sports that are all in one way or the other inspire people. And this is what we want to do, is inspire the world to go and exercise. That's why we took it in all the different continents, all over the world, the Arnold Classic. And it's just, I mean, it's for me, just such a great honor and pleasure to produce this show and to see where we came from in 1976 when we had 5,000 spectators at the Veterans Memorial Auditorium at the Mr. Olympia, and now we have 250,000 people coming through the 3 days of this convention, of this expo. So it's really extraordinary what it has grown into, and you know, and then for me to sit here with all these great champions. I mean, we have, how many Mr. Olympias are all there together here? Probably 34. No, but there's like two of them, it is 8, right? 8 Mr. Olympias. 27?
Yeah. I got this.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it's.
That's where you messed up.
See,
You got Arnold.
Well, of course we count ours.
Because we have, yeah, you have won, how many did you win? You won 4, so you have 34.
34.
So you have 34. So there you have it.
How many bodybuilders does it
Franco,
take?
when Franco comes out, he will be 36.
That's right, now we got Franco there.
Exactly. Well, he said, like you said last year, which was really interesting. He said to me, he says, there's 3 types of people in the world. Those that can count, and those that can't. That was his line last year, so I mean, I don't want to say anything about your counting, but you're a good moderator. You're really good.
I got that going for me.
Exactly, absolutely. And we should not discount now an Arnold Classic winner 3 times, right? He won 3 times the Arnold Classic. So he's going to go for all the continents. He told me already yesterday on stage, he's going to travel around all the continents and win all the Arnold Classics. And then for that, there's a special prize for that. It's like in every sport, it's very hard to get the straight 10 the day of the competition. You know, you're always, I mean, it's very rarely that you're exactly on the spot and then you hit that sweet spot. And that's what you did yesterday. You were like the only one that was out there that looked like 100% on for that hour. The body was hard as hell. It was muscular, you were lean, you had all the fluid was gone. Everything was just right, perfect. And the posing, his confidence, his mental attitude, everything was right. And you just don't hit it that well all the time. I remember times when I was in Mr. Universe contest and I said to myself, man, if I would have just trained harder, man, if I would have just gotten rid of a little bit more fluid, more water, if I would have just done a little bit more posing or something, there's always something off. And sometimes you hit it just perfect. And so he yesterday hit it perfect, and I think that all of us went through that in a way you just feel like, and you know that, as you could see yesterday, everyone is so in such fantastic shape that if one is off by a little bit, you can be dropping down to 4th place, even though you could deserve to win that very same moment if you would have been on. So it's all about being on at that particular moment, because every one of those competitors was so fantastic yesterday. There was like 5, 6 of them that could have won if they would have been on. You know? So that's just the way it works.
Arnold, I asked Ronnie Coleman when he came out, which version of Ronnie would beat all the other versions? I'd like to ask you the same. Which version of Arnold in your 7 Olympia victories? If we put all 7 Arnolds on stage, who wins? What year?
Well, I think this is very hard to say, because my favorite was 1974. Because in 1974 I weighed 246 pounds, which in today's days is not much. But in those days there was, Lou Ferrigno was heavier. He weighed around 260 or something like that year. But I mean, he was also taller. But I mean, I weighed 246, and I felt like full and pumped and everything like this. And the following year, in 1975, I did Stay Hungry in the middle. And so I had to go down, in order to get the job, I had to get down to 210 pounds. Otherwise, Bob Raferson would not have hired me to play the part, because he was worried that I would look too enormous compared to Sally Fields, because Sally Fields only weighed 100 pounds. And Jeff Bridges weighed like 160 or something like that. So he just felt like it would be better for my acting career and for the story if I'm down to 210 and still look muscular. And so that's what I did. But then when we were finished shooting in beginning of July, it was not enough time to October, when there was the Mr. Olympia in South Africa, to gain that body weight back quality-wise in that short period of time. I would have needed for that another 2 months or 3 months to get up to 246. So I got up to 233, 234, something like that, on the day of the competition. And so I was lighter. I was ripped and everything like this, but I was lighter. So some people thought that was the perfect body. To me, I felt I was too light. I didn't feel comfortable in the competition. I felt I was good enough to win, but I didn't feel like this was my best year because I didn't have the time to recuperate. 247, yeah.
I tell you what, I mean, in all formidable physiques, Arnold, take me back to Lee Haney's 8th Olympia win. Now, obviously, he ties you at 7, a record that a lot of people think would never have been equaled. And here comes Lee in a row and puts 7, and now he's actually going to go to beat the record. You obviously find out that Lee wins the Olympia and gets that 8th Sandow. What were your feelings at that time? How did that strike you?
Well, you know, you have two feelings. One of them is you feel like, okay, someone has now broken your record. And the records are there to be broken, obviously, so I understand that. But still, inside of you, there's a part that says, shit. What the hell just happened here? And, you know, so it was one of those moments. But then there was, of course, also the moment of joy, because I have known Lee for all these years, and I have known the struggle that he went through year after year. And it is like really hard to stay on top of the game, you know, because you get injuries when you train that hard throughout the year. You cannot go too far away from your top shapes throughout the year. So you do posing exhibitions to really stay with the program and orders. And you know, I talked to him regularly, so I knew the direction he was going. And so I was very happy. The other side of me was that, the better side of me was that I was very happy for Lee that he won the 8th Mr. Olympia. And I said, you know, it could easily be that he goes to 10, because there was no stopping him at that point. And but then he retired. He felt like, you know, it's time for him to move on and all that stuff. And since then, he's been doing great work to inspire so many of the kids in his community and all this. And I'm very proud of him. He's one of those bodybuilders that has really used this platform of fame for something really good. So I'm very proud of you for your bodybuilding career and also what you've been doing since then. So you've been a great spokesperson. And that's always the great thing when people can look at a bodybuilding champion, or any champion as far as that goes, after they're finished with their career, they feel like, wow, they really bridged over smoothly into another area. If it is to be in a business, or to be in giving back to the community, or to be a trainer and to inspire people to get healthy and to get fit, to get strong and muscular and all this stuff. So, you know, and I think this is of course, I say this also because everyone up here sitting on stage, all of you are such great inspirations. I mean, the amount of people that come up to me in the gym and they say, Phil just won another Mr. Olympia, that's fantastic, you know, he's my idol and blah, 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 and all this. I've said each one has, you know, their own idols, and this is what it's about. Because I remember, and I told the story many times, how Reg Park inspired me. And so that's why when I became Mr. Olympia and Mr. Universe, I said to myself, well, I'm here because of Reg Park, you know, and of course because of Joe Weider and because of so many Franco Columbu and so many other people that helped me. But really, Reg Park was the one that inspired me and made me feel like it is possible for a little farm boy that lives in a factory town in Austria, that it is possible to win and to emerge as a champion, because he did it in Leeds, which was a factory town, and he just proved by working out 5 hours a day that he could become the British champion, the European champion, and then in 1951 he won Mr. Universe. And so, you know, I saw it possible. So he was my inspiration, and I saw him on the big screen playing Hercules in the Hercules movie. So for me, it was like two things. It says, wow, if I get a body like that, I win Mr. Universe, and I maybe can get into movies. This is fantastic. So he was my ultimate inspiration. And so when I became Mr. Universe and Mr. Olympia, I said to myself, now it's not about me anymore. It's about the millions of people out there that I need to inspire. I need to become the Reg Park now, and I need to inspire other people to get involved in bodybuilding. That's why I love the Lee's story so much, because he watched one time the competition in Columbus here, right? And so tell that story, because it's a really great story.
Yeah, you know, I mentioned it a little bit earlier that I was here at the age of 20 years old, and I never will forget seeing you come down the aisle. I'm like, oh my goodness, there's Arnold. And I saw Franco win the Mr. Olympia title that year. I think it was 80, 81. And man, here I am today. But let me share another story. You know, as Arnold is talking, I never will forget in 1983, having entered my first Mr. Olympia show, placed third. I hate losing. I don't like to lose. That won the NPC National the first time, the IFBB World Championship the first time around, win the Olympia, well, the Olympia the third time around. Man, I just don't like losing. But you know, third place wasn't bad for a youngster. And I never will forget the after party at Albert Busak's gym. I'm sitting in the back, me and Shirley. I'm licking my wounds, feeling sorry for myself. And Shirley's consoling me as I'm sitting there with my head dropped. It wasn't that bad, guys, I'm kidding. And lo and behold, Arnold comes over. I'm 23 years old at the time. And he says to me, Lee, you look great on stage. You have a fantastic physique. He said, but you have to do something about that posing. You're on another level now. You can't pose like an amateur. So when we get back to California, I'm going to introduce you to my posing coach. And Arnold made that gesture, and I made sure I had my butt there in his office to meet his posing coach. And I think, and I talk about that now, I think now that what Arnold was also doing was testing me to see if I had it here, to see if I had it here. Was I going to follow through and humbly accept the advice that he was giving me, or the help? But I made sure I was there, because he said to me, Lee, once you get it down as far as your posing routine, you'll be Mr. Olympia. And I want to say thank you.
A huge, someone that really, you know, he convinced me to move to California to further my career and be closer to the magazines at the time, which was the only opportunity we had for visibility. And, you know, he told me from day one, I remember, you know, I was able to walk in Joe Weider's office at 21 years old. I just won a regional show out in California, and I did that show living in Massachusetts because I wanted to get publicity. I figured, okay, the magazines can shoot me and it'd be closer to there and maybe the competition would be a little tougher. I won that show, and I got a meeting actually to get face-to-face with Joe Weider, and I remember I was like trying to decide what to wear when I walked in his office, you know, and I had this really tight Hanes t-shirt on, probably a size too small. And I walked in his office, V-neck, you know, I had my chest sticking out, I was 21. And Joe didn't even really, you know, it was kind of like he was sitting at his desk, and I walked in and he looked right at me, and it was like, didn't even say, hey, I'm Joe Weider, handshake, anything. He said, who'd you shoot with? And I said, no, I shot with this guy or that guy. And he says, I want to offer you a contract. And I was just like, wow, like, this is Joe Weider telling me this. And, you know, I had seen the Arnold, you know, magazine articles about Joe Weider, and you know, this was the guy. I mean, if Joe Weider put his mark on you, you were it, right? So, you know, that was really my first encounter with Joe Weider, to be honest, and I felt privileged that we became friends, and he advised me in business. And, you know, actually after 2001, after I lost to Ronnie, controversially, I went to Joe's office and I actually got thrown out of his office because I was arguing with him. But
we had,
Did Joe actually throw you out?
well, he said, I've had enough, you need to leave, and I said, well, I'm leaving anyway, so. It was, you know, we had a great relationship, but obviously, you know, we had opinions, and, you know, he was a huge mentor to me, and you know, I really use that as kind of a benchmark in my career to be involved with Joe Weider and the organization, and of course, being on the Olympia stage, and so much history. But yeah, it makes you go back, it makes you think about that, because we all see the, you know, Arnold and Franco training together, and you know, we know how strong Franco was, and they created the shorter division Mr. Olympia, and you know, Arnold was the man, right? I mean, he became what he became, you know, it's like the Arnold Classic, and you know, movie star, governor, all that stuff. But like, everyone aspires to be something like that, be that visible. But you know, he's been a huge inspiration, as Joe kind of created that opportunity by bringing him as, you know, one of the greatest of all time, and I looked up to him a lot. You know, it's wasn't the same once he stepped away from the stage, although it's, you know, I always talked about Phil Heath from day one, meeting him. And you know, of course, Lee, I stepped in, I started bodybuilding the year Lee Haney retired. So I looked at him, and I looked at Rich Gaspari, I looked at those battles, right? And you know, bodybuilding was just something I loved so much. But you know, for me I remember Ronnie Coleman called me on my first victory, Night of Champions, my first pro win, and told me after prejudging, he said, congratulations. And I didn't understand because the show wasn't over yet, and he says, you won, so it kind of ruined it for me. But at the same time, it kind of like was nice. I went to the night show and I won the show, and little did he know, the year later, we'd be battling it out in a controversial year of almost winning, and then of course, you know, he's going back and forth with me, and you know, we would tour together, and we had a lot of great stories. We trained together, and you know, but Ronnie was like, all he wanted to do was work out. We would get off the planes, and Ronnie would be like, all right, where's the gym? And I'd be like, damn, I just want to sleep in the hotel, but I want to beat this guy, I got to get to the gym. So, you know, I remember it would be midnight, and Ronnie always traveled. He had this schedule, man, where it's like every Friday it was like leg day or whatever. So he would get off the plane, and I remember he'd get off the plane in like purple tights and like boots, and I'm like, this guy just flew on the plane in tights. His legs, he's walking through the airport, and everyone's like, heads are turning, like, man, I can't believe it. I'm looking at this guy, and I'm like, if I want to beat this guy, I guess I gotta go to the gym and train with him.
Or get purple tights.
Yeah, right. And I remember going, and he'd start, you know, we'd start the squats, and Ronnie loved those squats. And it was like, okay, warm up, 1 plate on each side, then it was 2, then it was 3, and I'm like, shit, this guy's gonna keep going. You know, I'd bail after 4, and Ronnie'd still go to 5 and 6. And, you know, he'd sit in the corner, he'd nod his head, and the music was playing loud. It was always rap music, you know. You know the videos, and that's what, and I'd sit there and just, all right, I bailed, and Ronnie can keep going. And man, I thought, how am I ever gonna beat this guy? And so when I did beat him, it was just like, man, I just beat my idol. So I kind of was in a weird place where I wasn't expecting, you know, the feeling. I was like so excited, but at the same time, like, man, I kept him from getting 9, breaking the record. And I know how much bodybuilding meant to him, and I knew how much Mr. Olympia title meant to him. And, you know, so it was kind of a mixed feeling. My respect to him was just tremendous, and still to this day, I wouldn't have been as great of a Jay Cutler bodybuilder as if it wasn't for Ronnie Coleman. So I always thought I didn't think I was going to win every time I went against him, that's for sure.
And so did I. So you know how I felt when I lost to you. For real. You're kind of like me. You kind of like think the guy who came before you was the greatest of all time. Well, the guy who was the greatest of all time to me was the guy sitting next to me, Lee Haney. And of course, I still feel that same way. And people come to me all the time and ask me, who do you think the greatest of all time? And I still say Lee Haney is the greatest of all time. Always think that Lee probably don't remember, but when I first got into the sport of bodybuilding, Lee was coming up on the end of his career. And I can remember like it was yesterday. And I was working security when he was going for his 8th title. And I'm like, man, if I can get backstage and just take this picture with Haney, this would be the best day of my whole life. And somehow or another, I was fortunate enough to get backstage and take a picture with him before he went on stage to win his 8th title. I don't know if you remember that or not, but the worst thing about that is that picture never came out.
Numbers, and there's so many others that get inspired to watch the Arnold Classic or to watch the Olympia in Vegas, and then they become later on Mr. Olympia. So this is the great thing about it. It's everything is to inspire others, and that's what this whole event is all about.
We've got to add another 2 Olympia victories onto the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, Franco Columbu.
Franco Columbu.
Arnold, do you speak Franco?
I'm the only one that really understands him perfectly. It's a mishmash of German.
Okay. Sometimes, people, Ralph Miller, sometimes Arnold and I, we talk about him and we do our own little languages. What do you call it? Bavarian, Munich. And Ralph is going like this. What are they saying? I speak German, But anyway, when you see these people here, they are not abnormal people, but they're very special. And you have to admit, they are real champions because you see it in the present. The first time I saw Lee winning the first Olympia, I stood there and I looked at him and I say, yeah, he looks very normal, poses well, he has all the muscles, he's a winner, and you were calm, relaxed. Normally bodybuilders are always like so hyper, like, you never know what to expect. But one interesting thing that the first time I was really impressed was in 1969 when Joe Weider used to instigate Arnold in Madison Square Garden. This was happening. And say, Arnold, they got this big guy. And I who is that guy? There was a guy there, Ronnie Coleman, you remember? He was a big guy, but he had 17 jackets. and I was spying on him. And he would take a jacket off and another jacket off. And then I said, Arnold, don't listen to Joe. And then I turned over and I see Sergio Oliva. He was so impressive to me because he had a shirt and he had a split here, like a V, and his tricep was humongous. He would come out like this. And I couldn't get my eyes off him. He looked so elegant. His waist was small. He was a weightlifter, the muscles like a rock. And it was very interesting. I want to make the story really short. You won, you beat Sergio, and then he didn't have a room to go to sleep. So we go back to a suite. Joe Weider had a suite there with Arnold and me, and across the street with the other bodybuilders. And Sergio knocks on the door. He knocks on the door. This is now, remember, after the Olympia. And then we go to sleep, who knows, 3 in the morning. And we got Joe Weider 3 in the morning asking Arnold, did you see Sergio's triceps? And Arnold said, yeah. When he came in, I saw it, just an hour ago. Anyway, we all go to sleep. At 7 in the morning, Sergio was in one of the rooms at the end of the suite. And the door was a little bit open and I heard a noise going like on a bed, going like this, making this strange noise. He said, what's going on over there? We thought Sergio was with some girlfriend there. So I walk over really slow, opening the door, and he was doing triceps. He's straight on top of the bed, on a chair, doing his tricep extensions. And I go back to Joe and say, he's doing triceps. says, why? And I said to Arnold, he's doing triceps, he's pumping up his triceps. He says, why? Oh, he's going to come out now with his triceps pumped. Arnold couldn't understand. He said, but the show was yesterday, I already won, right? And these are like so incredible events with these people, you know, with these champions. They do one crazy thing after another. And in Gold's Gym, when the physical gym started in Venice, it was all that, things like that. Like in Los Angeles, in Santa Monica, we had a smorgasbord restaurant. And, you know, I never knew the stuff. You go in there and he says, you can, you know, just pile up your plate. You can fill up all you want. And I'm going in a couple of times and out. Bodybuilders will go in and out. Eddie Giuliani and all the guys all eating. The manager wasn't too happy. One day I go with Ken Waller there, and the guy can eat. He went like 6-7 times filling up a mountain of plate. And the manager comes, you cannot come back here anymore. And the guy, but the law, there is no law that I cannot come back. And he says, I'll be here tomorrow morning. So, you know, some people are normal.
Man, I tell you, you have lit it up over the years with, you guys just used to mess with Joe. So much, Arnold. Give me one of your favorite Joe stories.
Well, one of my favorite stories I cannot really tell in front of this audience because I don't know if there are kids in here or not. But I mean, but the bottom. Let's go to the second favorite story. Okay. My second favorite story is that Joe, all of a sudden out of nowhere, you know, he was a history buff, and he started reading history things, and then he listened to those history tapes while he was driving his Cadillac, and somehow he got into this whole thing about that he had to grow a mustache because one of his idol leaders from the past had a wonderful mustache coming around here. So but he didn't trim it. It was kind of like hanging over his lips. And so he always was complaining, oh, God damn it, well, I don't know what's wrong with this mustache. Every time I eat my food, it gets stuck here, eh? And so Franco, he would be over at our apartment, and Franco would say, he says, I can fix this for you, Joe. And Joe says, what do you mean you can fix it for me? He says, I have a scissor. I do this all the time. I can fix it. And then Franco gets a scissor. Of course, the scissor is dull. It's not a sharp scissor to cut mustache here.
Because Arnold cut his toenails with it. His toenails, they are so hard they can't see from bodybuilding that the scissors will break.
It was the worst. So Joe sat there like and totally scared, you know, that Franco is going to poke him with the scissor. And Franco kept saying to him, he said, Joe, you have to be very, very quiet now.
Relax.
Just relax. Because otherwise I stick you with the scissor. And so Joe was very scared. He was like, his lips was like this. He's doing all these funny things with the lips. And so Franco will cut in, and then he will hold the scissor, and Franco realizes that the scissor doesn't cut the hair. So it was now stuck here. So now Franco just pulled away, and Joe screamed loud and said, ow, what's the matter with you, Italian bastard, eh? I'm telling you, Arnold, I said, bring the guy over from Sardinia. I built him up, and look at this, a crook, eh? Pulling my mustache, and he was like cursing and screaming, and then Franco says, stay still, Joe, there's one more here that has to be fixed. And he goes to the next one, and again Joe then pulls away himself, and then he screams again. So this was one of my favorite stories, because Joe was sitting there being tortured by Franco with the scissor. But he was so deep into it, he couldn't get out of it now. You know, he had to finish it, so it's a straight line. And so Franco just literally pulled one hair after the next out of his mustache. But I mean, Joe always came back. I mean, he loved all of our humor and all that stuff. You know, so he was just a very entertaining guy. And Joe had, of course, was a very complex kind of a guy, as you know, because he was kind of very, very generous. but he was also very cheap. And so it's like Sergio Oliva, like Franco said, you know, Sergio Oliva got his airplane ticket to go to New York, but after he lost, he probably didn't get his airline ticket to go back to Chicago, because his room was canceled too, just because he lost. He had no room. That's why he knocked on our door at 3 in the morning, and he was very shyly kind of outside saying, "Can I sleep in you guys' room?" And we said, "Yeah, of course, come on in, come on in." And then he told us that his room was gone. He didn't have a room anymore. So of course he stayed with us, like Franco said, he stayed in the 3rd bedroom down the hall. And what Franco said was absolutely correct. I mean, you know, Sergio was doing his triceps extensions and his triceps workout at 3 in the morning. I don't know what the hell he pumped up for, but I was worried about is there another competition in the morning or something like that. I said, why is he pumping up all night and I'm sleeping here, you know, and thinking it's over. So I mean, we always had a great time, but Joe Weider was very entertaining. Most difficult thing that you can imagine, much more difficult than lifting any of the heavy of the weights. I would be standing there and do a double bicep back pose, and Joe says, "I don't see the striation in the lower back. You got to cough." His belief was that if you cough, then you flex the abdominal muscles, and that will flex the lower back. And so he would just say, "Cough, cough, no, give me more flex, come on now, give me the calves are loosening up. No, the leg bicep, flex the leg bicep." And he would be hanging there and he would be shaking. But it was the best, because it didn't matter if it was shaking in front of Joe Weider or in front of the camera, but where you don't want it to shake is in front of the judges. That's where you don't want to shake, because as soon as you start going like this, shaking a little bit, it looks amateurish, and it looks like a Mr. Olympia should not be shaking, period. Someone that is competing in a Mr. Olympia is so high up in the level, should not be shaking. So that's why Franco and I, we always went to Joe and said, "Joe, let's take some pictures before the Olympia." And we got together, and it was a grind. I mean, we would meet at 11 o'clock in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. We were standing there and flexing and flexing and flexing and sweating, and you really sweat out all this extra stuff. And so then the next day, you really felt like, wow, I'm so sharp now, I'm so together, and I have practiced my posing and holding the posing. Imagine you stand there in a 3/4 back pose like this, which is so difficult to do, to suck in your stomach, to get the leg out there, to make the waist look small, and to twist, and he would say, "Twist more, come on up, the upper arm, higher up, making sure to have it high up, now pull back the wrist," and all of this stuff, and you'll be hanging there, and you're cramping up, and then you go, loosen up again. But it's all the day before the competition. So when the competition comes around the next day, you feel so good about yourself, how much you flexed and how you have you posing together. So that was always the smartest thing you can do, is a photo session with Joe Weider for his magazine a day before the Olympia.
And things came out at that point. Your weak points came out too. Like, for example, we took pictures. I thought I looked like a monster. You know, Garzella and Jim Caruso and all these photographers. And all of a sudden the pictures show up in Joe Weider's building, the office. We go there a few days later, and he would take my pictures and would look at them, 8x10s, and would throw them like this. And say, "Okay, looks good. His legs, look at his legs. Why doesn't he flex his legs? Why doesn't he get definition on his leg? Why doesn't he get his legs cut up?" And when I went to the Olympia, all I could think of that, and look next to me, Tom Platz, thinking of Joe Weider telling me how bad my legs are, and I'm looking at Tom Platz, and I said, "I need to correct this." And when I had my knee injury, for example, the leg was also behind it, and I had to stand there and find a way to say, "Get my good leg in front, look at Tom Platz, I hope he's not right." Then don't even see Joe Weider down there, but thinking of him, you say, "Oh, how I put the leg." It's really an experience.
You should do some abs also. And as if there is no abdominal bench here, because it was kind of just a few pieces of equipment in those days in 1968, 69. And so Franco says, "No, this is how you do it." And he would just hook in with his toes on the chin-up bar, but with no shoes on. And he would just, you know, I mean, imagine the pain to have your body weight hanging on your toes on a chin-up bar like this, and then he would do sit-ups like this, doing 30 reps sit-ups, hanging upside down like that. So only a monkey can do that, right? So this is why I said, Franco, you're not human. There's something off. I got to go to Sardinia and study this culture a little bit here, and where it came from originally, and what was the kind of the mixture and stuff like that. Because it was totally abnormal, the kind of things that Franco would do, bounce on his stomach through the gym on the dirty floor, and he would come in and he would do crazy things like that.
Arnold, Phil Heath tied your record just 2 years ago at 7 Olympia titles, went for number 8 this past year, and unfortunately just came up short. What advices would you give Phil for this year? Come back, try to claim the title, give it up after 7?
Well, no, I mean, you know, everyone feels different about this. I think that if Phil feels that he is at the height of his career, and if he feels like there's another year or another 2 years in him, I definitely would come back with vengeance. Because there's no two ways about it. Because I mean, I've watched Phil over the years, and you know, there's no one that can touch him when he's on. And I have to say that this is what I was talking about earlier. It was not you know, I mean, I think there was something, like I said, it's almost impossible to hit that mark every single time. And so I wouldn't even be too hard on yourself. It's just one of those things. I mean, that's, as I said, the guys are so close to, in shape, you know, they're such champions. There's so many champions in the Olympia that when you lose, that just means that you were off a little bit. And Phil was off a little bit, I thought. And so someone else took the opportunity and took the title. And so what you do is you say, okay, you analyze what was it? And what did I do different? You analyze it, and then you go there and you train like hell for this competition. And you pose like hell. And even if it takes 2 hours of posing a day, it makes no difference. And if it's 1 hour of practicing the vacuum every day in every conceivable position, that is what I would do. And I would make sure that the record is clear there, so that you can go on stage and they said, last year I said, I'll be back. And I'm back.
So Phil, I don't want to put you on the spot or anything. You know I would never do that to you. Arnold's got to go.
Can you believe that? I mean, I love this when the handlers come and tap you on the shoulder and say, it's lunchtime. Machines don't eat, you idiots. Jesus.
Good point.
No, but anyway, so Phil, yeah, I will go all out. I know that you have your own thoughts. Whatever you decide, it makes no difference, because it only makes a difference to you, because we all know that you've won so many times and that you're a true inspiration to all of us, to me and to millions and millions of others out there. So that I know for sure. So I mean, this is only for your personal thing, you know, and this is, you know, that's why I say if I will be you, because that's the way I am. I gotta go back and clean house, right? You know, this is just so you can walk away from this for the rest of your life and say, I did it, you know, and no one can shit all over me. It's not gonna happen, you know. So this is the only, it's an ego thing. It's an ego thing. And so I hope that you, but I would recommend, of course, that he goes to one of the Arnold's Classics first for warm-up.
You think?
Right? Yeah, I think so. I mean, don't you think so, guys? Yeah, go to one of the Arnold's Classics, win the competition, because that's how I won the Olympia. I won here in Columbus, Ohio against Sergio Liver. It was a neutral competition. It was organized by the AAU. I had nothing to do with the AAU and with the World Weightlifting Federation, nothing. So I came to the stage, posed, Sergio Liver was there, and he posed, Dave Draper, all those guys competed, Franco competed, and then Franco won his weight category and I won mine, and then I won the overall title, and that gave me the momentum then to beat Sergio in the Mr. Olympia 14 days later. So this was kind of a rhythm thing. First I beat Reg Park in London at the Mr. Universe contest in 1970. A day later I came here, won against Sergio Oliva, and then 14 days later went. So it's about a rhythm thing. So we of course would love to have you because you're such a great asset, and you have such a huge fan base. So we always would love to have any of the Mr. Olympia guys come and compete in the Arnold Classic. But I think that's for selfish reasons. But for yourself, also I think there is something there to be said to just compete. If it's the European one in the fall, whatever it is, and to just get that rhythm going, clean house, and then just come in as in Mr. Olympia. 2 weeks later, which is I think usually in October or so, right? Or end of September, whenever it is in Vegas.
Ronnie's saying that he's one of the few that actually won the Arnold and the Olympia in the same year, and it's not easy to do. It's certainly a road, but if anybody could do it, I'm sure it's Phil.
But I mean, let's be honest, what is easy to do? I mean, to win the Mr. Olympia is not easy. To win the Arnold Classic is not easy. To be the top in the world in anything is not easy. So you're absolutely correct. It's not easy. But I don't think that's why we are doing this stuff, to do something that's easy now. We would be just working somewhere in the post office if we want to just take it easy.
I think one of the things that we're all here talking about is that we're saying like winning these shows is like impossible, but then you break that down and you compete at it and you tell yourself that I am possible. I am possible. I will do the work, and I think that's what I'm processing at this moment, just being around all these amazing athletes, all these amazing legends. I have posters of everyone up here, including you, Brandon. I still have you, because I was there when you turned pro. I watched Brandon in his hotel room getting ready for the Nationals. So I've been a fan of everybody. But as far as me, coming back, I actually talked to Bob Chick about this briefly. I said, think about even an Arnold Classic. I enjoyed my time in Columbus. Never won that one. Did the one in Spain. Enjoyed that very much. I think Bob knows why.
Oh, yeah.
But
was it the squeaking in the hotel room at 3 a.m.?
No, there's a guy with the long ponytail. That guy. That was some good times at that show. But overall, I mean, I'm just absorbing all of this positive energy, and then also with the fans. But I think it's necessary for me to even reflect and to think, gosh, man, 7 years is a long time. It's a long time and a lot of work. And it's definitely enabled me to kind of take a step back and go back in the gym. I've been in the gym, this will be week number 5 since my surgery of October last year. And, we've all been injured in some way. Everybody up here, we've all been injured in some way, whether we share it on social media or not. Some is more prevalent, than others. But I can say that, if you follow me on social media, I've been posting a lot of cool things, and one of the DVDs that I was posting up was of this man right here, Arnold Schwarzenegger, The Comeback. So who knows? I'm just really excited to be healthy and back in the gym, and I do have that fire. I just want everybody to know it has not left. It doesn't leave. It'll never leave.
Thank you, Phil. And speaking of coming back, Governor, if you've enjoyed our time, you've got a very tight schedule where you've got to get going. Even though machines don't eat, you've got to watch everybody else eat. So I assume that we will see you back here, sir?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, this is really terrific. I'm so happy that we have a packed house here today and that so many people are interested in listening to the champions, because this is really where the action is. I mean, if you have any questions, I think you're doing such a great job and talk about the things that the audience likes to hear. You really, drill down on the various different subjects. So we are very proud of you to have you as part of this whole thing, because you can have the best product in the world, but if you don't know how to communicate it, you have nothing. And so I think the way we communicate about bodybuilding, the way we inspire other people, I think it's just absolutely the most important thing. And this is why we make this into a fitness festival, because we want to, this bodybuilding be the center of it, and then everything else happens from there. It just came from a pump and run competition that they opened up and at the start. And you know, the ballroom dancing, like I said, and there's the world's strongest man competition, arm wrestling championships, powerlifting, weightlifting, women's weightlifting. I mean, we have everything here. And the most important thing to us is children. Because we have the pavilion, the fairgrounds over there, where the pavilions are, where all the children are competing. Because the children, this is the future. And everything that I mean, I always say kids are the best investment. And so we want to invest in our kids, and we want to groom those kids to grow up and to be great athletes and to be participating. So this is what it's all about. So I promise you, I'll be back. Thank you.
And after the one and only Arnold Schwarzenegger.